When I'm making videos, I want to find companies with stories to tell, whether it's a founder that wanted to change the world in some way or a company changing the ways we think about finance. They're stories that inspire us to invest in those companies. But sometimes some of the best investments we can make have the least interesting stories to tell. Sometimes it's the boring behind-the-scenes companies that are the best investments. Companies like graphic packaging. Hey everybody, and welcome back to Dollars and Cents, helping you make sense of making dollars. Founded in 1991, graphic packaging is one of the largest manufacturers of recycled paper products in the US. It makes various packaging for companies such as Kraft Foods, General Mills, and Pepsi. As I said earlier, there really isn't much to this company in terms of an interesting story or even history. That's why we're moving right into the financials, because that's where I think the real interest is. The very first thing we want to look at is graphic packaging, or GPK's revenue over the last 5 years. In 2015, GPK brought in $4.16 billion in revenue. This grew to $6.56 billion in 2020. Always very nice to see growth in revenue. As I was reading through GPK's latest 10K, I found that its organic growth was only up 3% in the past year. This is slightly concerning to me. However, it appears to me that a lot of GPK's growth comes from its acquisitions, not necessarily organic sales growth. So definitely something to keep in mind. Our next metric is, of course, shares outstanding. This is one of the really significant things that I saw when doing research in this business. Graphic packaging is eating its own shares at an incredible pace. In 2015, there were 329.5 million shares outstanding. Now, in 2020, there's only 278.8 million. This is a 15% drop. Essentially, this means that the company is rapidly increasing your share in the business, provided you're a shareholder. As many of you may know, share buybacks are easily one of my favorite ways a business rewards shareholders. It's also the most tax efficient, but that's a subject and discussion for another video. What's really important is that GPK is buying back shares at a tremendous pace, which is great. After shares outstanding, we need to look at total current assets versus total current liabilities. In terms of total current assets, GPK is $1.91 billion, and its total current liability stands at just $1.32 billion. Of course, this is another great thing to see. This means that GPK has enough readily available assets to handle any upcoming financial blows. Also, the company has $116 million in cash. This is a little lower than the last few years, but that's most likely due to the recent acquisitions. In this last section, we'll examine GPK's free cash flow, or FCF. There is technically a decrease here from 2015's FCF, standing at $345 million then. In 2020, that number has changed and fallen to $178 million. Pretty sure this can be attributed to the interesting events of 2020. With a notable decrease, I believe that GPK's free cash flow will correct itself in the upcoming years. Now our last metric is to get the average free cash flow over the last 5 years and multiply it by 20 and then compare it to the market cap. Unfortunately, the average is actually negative. Why? Because in 2017 and 2018, GPK invested large amounts of money in new machinery and new acquisitions. For that reason, I'm actually going to be knocking off those 2 years of free cash flow just to get a rough estimate. From the 2 years, in 2019 and 2020, the average free cash flow falls to $245 million. Multiply this by 20 and we get an expected market cap of $4.9 billion. Currently, GPK's market cap actually stands at $4.86 billion, so according to our math, the company right now is fairly valued. Of course, the next two things we need to look at are ROIC and the dividends GPK pays. ROIC is easy, sitting at 8% or 7.94% to be exact. Unfortunately, this is slightly below our preferred 10% ROIC, but this isn't the end of the world. As I said previously, with the market cap numbers, the ROIC is slightly skewed by the 2 years in 2017 and 2018 of heavy spending. It was also hit particularly hard by the pandemic, but I expect it will rebound quite quickly in the coming years. Lastly, we have one of my favorite parts of any business, the dividends. GPK's current dividend yield sits around 1.68%. This equates to about 30 cents per year or 8 cents per quarter per share. This is a relatively small dividend, likely because the company hasn't actually been paying dividends for that long. Really, GPK started paying dividends in 2016, issuing just 5 cents per share. It raised the dividend one time in 2016 to 8 cents, and it's been there ever since. Unfortunately, I don't see much in terms of this dividend growing in the future. While it is possible that GPK is just waiting to get back to normal from the crazy craziness of last year, I am still hesitant. A good thing, however, is GPK's payout ratio, sitting at 23.51%. This is easily enough to sustain more growth in the future. Bottom line, if you're looking for a solid source of income and a rapidly growing dividend, you might want to look somewhere else other than GPK. Finally, the last topic I want to mention in terms of financial numbers is a little thing I noticed about book value growth versus price growth. Graphic Packaging's book value growth, or the growth of its tangible assets, sits around 7.1% over the last 5 years. This is actually really good, higher than many other companies I've seen, although with a smaller company it's a lot easier to acquire more assets. Now what I found really interesting was the price to book value growth. This sits at just 1.75%, which means that the business is growing its assets at a rate 5 times that of its actual stock price. And this might not mean a lot, but I thought it was a neat little tidbit to add to my thesis. So what's so different about this company that it warrants an investment? As I said earlier, there isn't a lot of super interesting stuff going on here. However, I believe there are 3 key aspects to Graphic Packaging's success that you might want to consider. The first is the worldwide push to recyclables. By now, everyone's heard the drumbeat of the environmentalists saying we need to recycle more, use less plastic, and reduce our carbon footprint to save the planet. This has led many companies to start initiatives to do this very thing. Companies like Google have achieved what is called carbon neutrality. In a sense, this is where their efforts to replenish the Earth's resources are equal to the damage they do. This is not a perfect definition, but it's good enough. Now, I am certainly not one to praise big companies in general, however, I do think any progress towards less pollution is a step in the right direction. Yet, what does this actually mean for Graphic Packaging? Well, simply put, it means more business. Companies like General Mills have committed to using 100% recyclable packaging by 2030. Other companies like Coca-Cola, Colgate, L'Oreal, and Honest Tea have all made pledges to use more recyclable materials in their packaging. This means a whole host of new customers for Graphic Packaging. As more and more companies commit to the pledge of having 100% recyclable packaging, the demand for this company only grows. With Graphic Packaging being the largest manufacturer of 100% recyclable packaging in the world right now, I expect the company to get a lion's share of the business that comes with this push towards recyclables. The second aspect is a lady named Diane McKeever. Diane McKeever is the head of IDES Capital Management. She, along with her team, are activist investors. These folks take a vested interest in companies, purchase a stake in them, and attempt to help the company in the way they see fit. Many times this has been beneficial. Diane certainly has a good track record, including successful investments in companies like Boingo and Arcosa, both of which have enjoyed rapid growth since her initial interest in these companies. Of course, Graphic Packaging's success is not entirely due to Diane, however, it is nice to see her involvement. The third aspect is the CEO himself. The CEO of Graphic Packaging is Michael Doss, and he's been with the company for a long time. We're talking as far back as 1990, before the company even had a name. Doss spent pretty much his entire life at this company, and only recently took the helm as CEO in 2016. Since then, as we said earlier, revenue has skyrocketed, going from $4.3 billion in 2016 to $6.5 billion in 2020. Compare this with the previous 4-year period of 2012 to 2016, and it's just dismal, with 2012's revenue coming in at $4.3 billion and being $4.3 billion again in 2016. Almost no growth in those 4 years. However, it appears that's now changing because of the guy who's been faithful at the company for multiple decades already. Another bonus thing that I really like is Graphic Packaging's expansion plans. GPK made several investments in Europe, including the purchase of AR Packaging, the second largest fiber-based packaging producer. With this, GPK quickly positioned itself as a dominant player in the field. All in all, I think Graphic Packaging presents at the very least an interesting idea, even if the company is one of those behind-the-scenes bores. A play that focuses on the recycling movement and its continued growth will, I believe, prove to be profitable and valuable in the future with the global push to more environmentally friendly practices and products. I think that a small hidden company led by a faithful CEO and backed by a proven activist investor really could provide some real value over the next few years. Then again, I just really love finding companies that chug along in the back, providing a great service with phenomenal leadership, even if the dividends aren't that great. Still, I'm interested in the story that Graphic Packaging has yet to tell. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and leave a comment in the comments section below. But if you want to talk even more about this company and any others, join my Discord, link in the description, and until then, I'll see you all in the next episode of Dollars and Cents.